Welcome, everybody, to the Dragon Ball Network podcast. Today I am joined by Fitzmonk TV and not Sal and Steven because they are a couple of fake fans who like to flake out on me on the last minute. And that is actually not true. They just really don't know anything about the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. So recently, what has happened is that the Dragon Ball Network has had a whole overhaul of what is happening. You know, the schedule has changed. The same creators doing different times, all this stuff switching around. And I decided with the podcast to, since the name is the Dragon Ball Network podcast, that does not mean it's not called the podcast all about Dragon Ball. So I have decided that me and anybody who's on, we don't have to just talk about Dragon Ball. I'm sure that we will most of the time, but like today, tomorrow, as of this recording, tomorrow, Avengers Endgame comes out. And, you know, most everybody's excited for this. Sal and Steven don't really know anything about the MCU, but yet they're still excited for this for some reason. I have no idea, but that just goes to show you the amount of hype that is around this movie. But the person I have on here today does happen to know a lot about the MCU, just like me, and that is Fitzmonk. What's going on, dude?
Yo, what up, bro, man? Yes, I'm happy to be here. Yes, we're getting ready for Avengers Endgame. It comes out. Well, me and Jake are seeing it tomorrow night on, early screenings, and I'm very excited to see it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty damn scared as well, because, you know, it is kind of like an end in a way. The MCU isn't ending, but, you know, we are gonna be saying goodbye to some of these characters that we've grown up with. And the thing that's been so great, because I know, Jake, you've been a fan since 2008 with the first Iron Man.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like, you know, a couple times a year, we get to go to the theater and check up with these characters, no matter if it's an Avengers movie or, you know, one of these characters having a solo movie, something like that. We've grown with these characters throughout these 10 years. Like, when the first Iron Man came out, I was just in second grade, and now I'm in college. And now it's all coming to an end, you know, the first era of the MCU, and it's crazy in a way. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with Endgame. Based on the reviews I've heard from the premiere, it's absolutely wild. It's a emotional, like, love story in a way to Marvel fans, and I can't wait to see it. And I know you do. You can't wait to see it too.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's the final end to the Thanos saga. I believe they are calling it the Thanos, you know, the whole Marvel phase 1, 2, and 3. And, you know, like you said, yeah, I have been a fan since 2008. I was a fan of Marvel movies before 2008, but like starting with Iron Man, I'd have to say Iron Man is probably the movie that I have seen the most out of any MCU movie, only because when it first came out, I was like, this is so cool. So, of course, I went to my local Best Buy because Best Buy was still around at the time. Or not Best Buy, Blockbuster.
Blockbuster,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Blockbuster. Both have yellow symbols. Gets me all confused. But no, I went to Blockbuster multiple times and rented this movie. And so much that when that Blockbuster went out of business, I bought that movie while they were selling all of them. So I would definitely say I've invested a ton of time and money into these movies, going to see them multiple times when they come out. All this stuff. It's definitely something that, you know, I'm really ecstatic to see that we're getting an end finally to this like whole saga like that's been going on, and I'm super excited to see what goes on into the future. And that's going into today. You know, we're all excited, getting ready for the hype. I want to talk about all of the MCU. We're going to go over and we're going to talk about our opinions of all of the movies. Now, I've done rewatches of the whole MCU multiple times, so I definitely have some strong opinions on these movies, and I definitely know where I would rank them, from my favorites to my least favorites.
Oh, definitely. I did a video a couple weeks ago on my personal channel, Fitzmonk TV, where I ranked every single film. It was a long video, but yeah, I ranked the first 21 films of the MCU, and just thinking about the fact that 21 films, the way this franchise has grown throughout the years, and definitely I'm excited to hear because I'm very excited to hear what your favorite movies are from the MCU. See where we agree and disagree on things. But hey, this is gonna be very fun, and I can't wait to get into it.
I believe this is also going to be very fun. Now, this was inspired by recently Geekdom did a whole breakdown, 3 whole podcast episodes breaking down each Marvel movie. We're not going to go that in depth, but I thought, being a big of a fan of these characters as I am and as Fitz is that I feel like we would also love to give our opinions on these movies as well and talk about where maybe they fall short or where they blast ahead of all of the other ones.
Yep, can't wait.
So we're going to start off in phase 1 in 2008, where it all started, the first Iron Man movie, directed by Jon Favreau. And I really have to say that I think this movie, for being the first movie to start out a whole universe, is actually really damn good.
Yes, in my opinion, it's the best of the 3 Iron Mans, all right? And we'll talk about, of course, we're going to talk about every single movie.
Yeah.
But the fact is that, this is the movie that started it all for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And when they first started the project, you hear Kevin Feige and, everyone always talk about how, how ambitious a task this was. Because, Robert Downey Jr., the guy's an amazing actor. But when this all started, he was just trying to, pick back up his career. And if Iron Man didn't do well at the box office, if it didn't succeed as much as it did, it not only would, Marvel Studios have never become as big as it has, but, it's very, debatable that, Robert Downey Jr.'s career probably would have ended right there,
Exactly. And if you remember, I believe this movie came out the same year that Tropic Thunder came out.
Yes.
The movie where Robert RDJ is in blackface, and it's a very, I mean, I love Tropic Thunder. I think that's a hilarious movie too, but I think this movie really helped pick RDJ's career right back up, because now whenever people hear about Robert Downey Jr., now it's not, his movies he was in the 80s or any of that. He's Iron Man.
Yes.
And I actually think that's really cool. Now, this movie, it definitely, it's not, I wouldn't say it's top tier, but it's definitely it's like a lot of the phase 1 movies are really just, cut and paste, the same story. Here's the origin, big bad villain, good versus evil, that. Now, see, this movie, I really like it because it shows, it's not really, it's kind of showing the arrogance of Tony Stark at the beginning, and then that leads to him, his demons from, or, whenever all of the people that he sold weapons to are also the ones who kidnapped him, and it's he has to fight back from that. He sees the error of, the warfare, building weapons, all that stuff. And him and himself, I would say the first, 3/4 of the movie are really good. And then the ending, even though I love Jeff Bridges, Ironmonger is just one of your basic villains in this movie.
Yeah. I feel like, the way they went, they didn't want to introduce a really big villain to start off, because I feel like, in a way they wanted to make, Iron Man and the MCU look very important, but, they wanted to be a little bit cautious, because if they went too big and it failed, it would not, look good at all. But, basically, most of the movie is just about, Tony Stark, his ego, and, him becoming Iron Man. The scenes of him in, his garage, just working with Jarvis on the Iron Man design. One of my favorite scenes is, the flight scene. test flight where he's in the gray suit, and
Yeah.
he tells Jarvis, sometimes you have to run before you can walk. Absolutely epic scene, and then he's flying through, and then he has to deal with the ice problem on his suit. You could tell that they had bigger plans for Iron Man and the villains, and we would see that going further as we went through his arc. But definitely, it was a great way to kick off the MCU. It was a great way to kick off the Iron Man story, and it established right away that Tony Stark, he was going to be the main figure of this.
He was going to be the man.
He was going to be the man. He was going to be the face of the MCU.
Yeah, and
they could have easily gone with Captain America.
And that's the thing. Iron Man really wasn't that big of a character, which made this even more of a risk.
Yes.
Like, they could have easily gone with, which they did eventually, but, Captain America first, or something like that. Like, but what they did was, they were like, we're going to take, because the whole story, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know Marvel sold off their rights, so a lot of their big characters were gone. But what they realized is that a lot of them, they still had a lot of the core Avengers. So what they were able to do is they started off with Iron Man, and I really feel like Jon Favreau did a really good job of setting up this. It's still a really basic movie in terms of MCU movies now. It's really by the numbers, but it gets the job done. And I really think that as the Iron Man movies progress, I do believe this is my favorite one out of the three.
Yeah, this is definitely my favorite out of the three Iron Mans. Iron Man, and I'll just let you guys know, for everyone listening, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, easily my favorite character in the MCU by far. So just to let you, I just want to warn you guys that I'm definitely gonna be being a little bit of a fanboy when it comes to most of the Iron Man appearances in the MCU and the movies. But definitely, out of the three Iron Mans, this is definitely the best in my opinion. Not saying the other two stink, and we'll get to those, but this was definitely...
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to those. We'll get to those movies. But that's definitely one of my favorites. Now, another one, the next one, which I really hate to say is really, really insignificant now, because of, you can basically go on with your life, like, you can do your MCU rewatch, and you do not have to watch this movie.
Yeah, this is skippable.
Okay, for anybody who doesn't know, released the same year as Iron Man, we're talking about The Incredible Hulk. Now, this Incredible Hulk, if you've never seen it before, I don't blame you, because a lot of people say you don't even need to watch it. But this movie had Edward Norton as Bruce Banner. And it's... I don't know the exact details of what happened, but, Edward Norton had creative differences, so Kevin Feige was like, all right, well, we don't need you. And then they recast him with Mark Ruffalo. And there's... There a lot of the stuff in the movie. Now, there are further things in the MCU that do reference like events that do happen in this movie, especially the Avengers. But this movie really is lackluster to me. It's not really anything super special. It really just introduces the Hulk, and like almost every other Incredible Hulk movie, it's not really interesting at all. Really, all it does is it gives us Thunderbolt Ross, a cool cameo by Tony Stark, and then some plot points that we can use in the future, just as references.
Yeah, in my opinion, the best part of this movie is Tony Stark's cameo. All right, I really don't, like this movie that much. It's definitely, and I love MCU and everything, but this is definitely at the bottom for me when it comes to the MCU films. That I think about it. What if Mark Ruffalo was playing, the Hulk character? I just feel like the Hulk is better when he's a supporting character. And I love Mark Ruffalo, and if he was, playing the Hulk back then, maybe this would be a little bit higher on my personal list. But I feel like they were just trying a little bit too hard, trying to make a Hulk a leading character, in his own solo film.
Yeah, it's and it's sad because the Incredible Hulk is one of the most iconic comic book characters ever. But this movie, it's just with every other Hulk movie, it's just like gets the powers, super strong. It's nothing that we haven't seen before, and that's why every time a new one comes out, it's kind of just almost the same movie. Now, I do agree with you. I don't think Hulk really works as a leading character because every other movie that he's been a supporting character, I really do enjoy the Incredible Hulk. So once we get further into it, we'll talk about those movies. But the Incredible Hulk, I'm not gonna put it like right at the bottom, but it is really close for me.
It's other than a couple other films, which we'll get to in just a little bit, if you know what I'm talking about. The Incredible Hulk is definitely down there. This is for fans of the MCU, this is definitely a skippable movie. I hate to say that, but it just is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it really doesn't build on anything. The only thing that really helps build is the Tony Stark cameo at the end, talking about the Avengers Initiative.
Yes, that's the most important part of this movie, really.
Yeah. So right after this, interestingly, instead of doing a completely different villain, they go straight into Iron Man 2. After this movie it comes out in 2010.
I'll keep saying this. I love Tony Stark and everything. But I felt like it was a mistake for them to go into Iron Man 2 so early. The fact that they just did Iron Man 1, they did Incredible Hulk, and then they went straight into an Iron Man 2, I feel like they should have, maybe just waited a little bit longer. Maybe do, the first Captain America movie or the first...
Yeah, they could have thrown the first Captain America movie in.
Yes, and then put the Iron Man 2. I felt like, it was a bit rushed. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe because they saw so much success in the first Iron Man that they wanted to start working on Iron Man 2. I won't blame them. But my main problem with this is, it's not really anything with the characters. It's more the storylines, because there are so many different storylines that are going throughout this film. Like, for example, you have Iron Man, dealing with people, coming for his suit. He's dealing with his relationship with Pepper. He's dealing with his relationship with Rhodey. They're introducing us to Black Widow. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Tony's dealing with making this new element, and he's dealing with Nick Fury, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different storylines that they're trying to give time to every single one, that it makes it difficult for the movie to breathe in a way. And that's my main problem with the film. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed the final battle where that he's flying through the city. The robots are chasing him, and with War Machine and him teaming up at the end, it's cool in a way, but I feel like if they had done a better job, with managing all the storylines, and two, managing Black Widow, because
yes,
in my opinion, I love Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff. She is incredible, and I'm very excited. Hopefully, in the future when we get the Black Widow movie, I'm so excited for that. But I feel like her true introduction in the MCU is not even in the Avengers. It comes in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which we'll talk about later. But yeah. But I feel like if they did a better job introducing her in the Avengers, not the Avengers, in the Iron Man 2. It would be a better movie. Those are my main two problems with the movie: Black Widow and all the storylines.
And what are your thoughts on the villains of this movie, bro?
I was not a big fan of the villains. I feel like they could have done a much better job with Whiplash. To me, he just wasn't that interesting. All right, he was kind of generic in a way. The main thing is,
get to me my bird.
Yeah, like bro. I want an arc reactor. I want to make my own Iron Man suit. Like, come on, you can do better than that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of people have this as their one of the worst movies in there. And I think this movie definitely has its redeeming qualities. Definitely I would say what saves this movie for me is the post-credit scene. But a lot of the things now in this movie also we have to bring up is that Rhodey is replaced. It's not Terrence Howard anymore. It's Don Cheadle. And honestly, in my opinion, I like Don Cheadle more.
Yes. I wish personally that John Cheadle was, War Machine from the beginning, from Iron Man 1, and we've all heard the stories of how, Terrence Howard, how he felt, betrayed, and how he was pissed off because he
wanted more money.
He wanted more money. And, he felt like RDJ was taking all the money and all that. But, at the end of the day, he did a good job in Iron Man 1, but, John Cheadle, he came in and proved why he should have been the
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Don Cheadle was a choice, was one of the actors they were choosing between in Iron Man 1. Terrence Howard looks more like Rhodey, but in the comic books, but Don Cheadle really just takes the role and runs with it.
Yes, he definitely.
Yeah, so in this movie we're introduced to Ivan. I don't remember his name. Whoever Whiplash is played by, and then we're also introduced to in this movie Justin Hammer, and the one played by Sam Rockwell. Yeah, definitely. Jesus, completely skipped my mind. Justin Hammer in the comic books is someone who despises Iron Man so much that all of Iron Man's enemies get weapons from him to take down Iron Man. And I really think in this story they kind of did do him justice by him helping Whiplash to be like, oh yeah, I'll help you, I'll get you, you bird, I'll get you whatever. So I don't think that character was all too bad. Whiplash, really a forgettable character, but the thing that saves this and the appearance of Black Widow, and in this movie, if I remember correctly, Black Widow she takes down Jon Favreau, the director of this movie as well, Happy Hogan doesn't. She just takes him out in a ring or whatever. And
yes, the famous boxing scene. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a funny moment to me. But the thing that kind of saves this movie for me, even though the movie's whatever, is that it in the middle of the movie, Phil Coulson's like, oh, I gotta go to New Mexico to investigate something, and then in the post-credit scene we see that it's Thor's hammer in New Mexico, and that made me pop when I saw that. At the end of that movie, when I saw that, I was like, yo, you knew whose hammer that was. And during Iron Man 2, we had heard that they were doing a Thor movie, so we knew that it was coming. But when they put that in there, dude, I popped.
Yes, I absolutely loved it. And I have interesting thoughts on Thor, which we'll get to in just a little bit when we get to Thor. But definitely one of the best moments in this movie is, how he says we found it and we see Thor's hammer. I absolutely was so excited as a little kid seeing that in the theater, man, because, I've always wanted to be like Thor, swinging the hammer around and, just knocking people. It got me very excited to see what he would bring to the MCU.
Yeah, it was definitely something. Now, when we get to Thor, which came out in 2011, 1 year after, this is before Marvel was doing the 2 movies a year thing. So we got this movie the year after, and Thor, when you think of this movie, Chris Hemsworth coming into this movie wasn't even the biggest actor in this movie.
He really wasn't.
Which is crazy, because in this movie we have Natalie Portman and also, oh man, oh my god, I'm blanking out here. The Odin, who plays Odin.
Oh, damn.
Oh,
I'm forgetting too.
Dude, I'm blanking out. Oh my god, hold up. Google is my best friend. Odin MCU. Let's see.
Anthony Hopkins, yeah. He's Anthony Hopkins, the guy who played
Hannibal Lecter, all that stuff. Definitely a very well accomplished actor. But no, in this movie, Tom Hiddleston really wasn't anything either, and that's the thing. In this movie, your main stars really
Or Tom Hiddleston and Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, or Chris Hemsworth too, and he's just like it's very odd that your person that you choose for the lead isn't a really accomplished actor, but in this movie I think it works. Like Chris Hemsworth to me looks like Thor, acts like Thor.
Yes.
And the thing about this movie is Thor is a really interesting character because Thor takes you to the mystical god worlds of the MCU. And that's the thing that I think this movie did really well, is because instead of just being it brings you to Earth at the movie, but you get introduced to all the stuff, Asgard, all of this stuff, and it's awesome. I think it's an awesome introduction to the mystical realm of the MCU. But I'm not gonna say this movie is amazing because it is kind of another by the numbers movie, but it's definitely not top tier, but definitely mid tier, just like Iron Man 1 to me.
Definitely. For me, when it comes to the first two Thor movies, all right, and a lot of the things you hear me say about Thor, you'll probably see me say again when we get to Thor: The Dark World. Definitely Chris Hemsworth, he looks like Thor, very, very similar to the way Thor looks in the Marvel comics, and I also loved, what's his name? Idris Elba, the one that plays Heimdall.
Heimdall, yeah, dude. Heimdall. Idris Elba is a boss, dude.
Yes. I love the way Chris portrayed Thor when he gets to Earth. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he's at the dining, when they're at the diner and he's like throwing down the coffee cup. And he's like, more.
Oh yeah, he drinks the drink and he smashes it and he's like, I'll have another.
Like definitely, and you're completely correct. When this was, this was like building the foundation for like the cosmic part of the MCU, and this movie has its good parts, but there's also some parts I didn't enjoy. Like sometimes they did focus a little bit too much on like the mythological side. And one thing I love about the MCU is that it's kind of realistic. A lot of these things is realistic, and sometimes, in my opinion, they sometimes made Thor, or at least the first two Thor movies, they tried a little bit too much to make it look all mythological, when I feel like they could have focused a little more on the realism part, which would have made it a little more enjoyable for me personally. But definitely, this movie isn't bad at all. It's definitely middle of the pack. It's not. It's I have it a little bit below Iron Man 1, but definitely it's a good. And also another thing that we didn't talk about, also Jeremy Renner, he makes his debut as Hawkeye.
I was just about to, when you said that there's something we didn't talk about, I've been sitting here waiting to bring it up again, is that Hawkeye gets introduced to this movie.
Yes.
So
yeah,
and he's one of the he's guarding Thor's hammer.
Yes, I like that. He's like, sir, do you want me to take care of this, or do you want him to keep beating up our men?
Yeah, and then he tells him, he's like, no, just let him go. And then Thor gets there and realizes he can't pick up the hammer and realizes he's not worthy.
All the mud on his face.
Dude, that is one of my favorite scenes in this movie.
Yes, definitely. He had like all the mud and the rain's pouring, and you could see the anger. There's so many emotions you could see that were filling him. Like
there's
anger,
the anger.
sadness.
You think you just think, if you put yourself in his shoes, that he's at this point he's still so full of himself that he thinks he's gonna go over to his hammer and lift it up. But when he realizes that he can't and he gets hit with the "I'm not worthy," that's whenever the character of Thor really begins. And I really enjoyed this movie. Like we said, middle of the pack, and definitely we'll get to the second one. I have some opinions on that, but two's twos in the MCU aren't always the best ones. There are really good ones. I'm not saying that.
There's a couple good ones, but they do. Second movies in solo series for the Iron Man 2, Thor: The Dark, and we'll get to that in just in a little bit. But I agree with you. Twos are not Marvel's best.
All right. So after Thor, after Thor, also coming out in 2011 though, is Captain America: The First Avenger. Now this movie, I really enjoy this, and I think this is a personal thing because a lot of people say, "Oh, this movie's kind of boring" and all this stuff. But honestly, I love World War II and all that stuff. So like learning about all that. And, Captain America, being one of the most iconic comic book characters ever, they took this, and I really like how they, in this movie, they bring up, Captain America's past, even in the comic books, how he used to be used for propaganda, like, during the war, and they have him, after they turn him into Captain America.
Yeah, like the stage performer.
Yeah, he's just a stage performance, punching Hitler, all that stuff. Even though I would have preferred Hitler was maybe in this movie and Captain America actually punched him. But, this we get the Red Skull, which is basically just Hitler. So,
Yeah.
No, this movie introduces us to Hydra. And,
Yeah, it became a big thing.
Yeah, definitely a big thing. And it also introduces us to the Tesseract.
Yes, Tesseract is arguably becomes the most important of the Infinity Stones since we see it so much throughout these movies. It's the stone you see the most. Like you see it in Captain America, you see it in Captain Marvel, you see it in the Avengers. It keeps coming.
I don't remember. It's not in the first Thor movie, right?
No, it's not in the first Thor movie.
Okay, because I remember
even though it's a part of Odin's.
It's stated that it is on Asgard at one point.
Yes.
So this movie definitely introduces us to a bunch of things, and it's really just about Captain America, going through the war, stopping Hydra and the Red Skull, all of these things, because he learns that Hydra's trying to use the Tesseract to build weapons of mass destruction for the war, and it's definitely another one of those by the numbers, MCU backstory movies, big bad villain, all this stuff. But the thing that really gets me in this movie is the ending.
My gosh!
The whole ending sequence with him remembering that he was gonna take Peggy Carter out on to dance and all this stuff, but then realizing he couldn't, and then he's on the comm with her as he's going down into the ice. Like this is so heartbreaking at the end of the movie, and it makes you feel really sad. But then you're like, oh, this man's gonna die, right? Like you're like there's no way this man's gonna just like die at the end of the movie, but he technically does, and that's the thing. Like he gets frozen in the ice and presumed dead, but he takes the Tesseract with him, but the Tesseract ends up falling into the ocean, which the Tesseract now has been retconned where it goes, how it ends up places. It's really confusing now, but like the ending of this movie is definitely I haven't talked about like the actual ending, but the events leading up to the ending of the movie are really heartbreaking.
I love Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. Like definitely, if you guys love Agent Carter, she's phenomenal in the Agent Carter series as well. If you guys haven't seen that, check that out. But I love the scene where after he officially becomes Captain America, how they go to like each of these like war spots during the war, and they have like that huge battle sequence where he's like he rides in with like Bucky and his crew, and they're just taking out base after base after base. And yes, talking about the ending of the movie, it was funny. It's a simple story, like how Red Skull gets cast out or just disappears in a way by touching the Tesseract, and and basically that ending scene with Peggy and Captain, they're talking about their dance. It makes you think, what's more sadder, the fact that Captain America's about to die, to save New York, or the fact that he's not gonna get his date with Peggy. Like that scene,
which I'm really hoping that they pay that off.
I feel like they will
somehow.
I feel like they will, based on what the second trailer of Endgame with the Peggy voiceover. I feel like they're definitely gonna do something with that. Maybe going back in time. I don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure we've gotten spoilers that tell us time travel is going to be involved. There's definitely a theory that I have. Maybe we'll just throw our Endgame theories out at the end of this podcast. But definitely this movie, after that heartbreaking ending. Now, what I really love about this is what happens after he gets found and thawed out of ice. And also in this movie, we get introduced to young Howard Stark.
Yes. It's crazy to me how it's crazy to me how much, or how identical almost, how Howard and Tony actually look. Two different actors, but you could see, RDJ and Dominic Cooper. Dominic Cooper's the one that played Howard Stark in this movie. Like, it's crazy how similar
it's
they
uncanny.
Look. Like, it's absolutely wild.
Yeah, it's definitely, and that also sets up into the Iron Man story, because eventually we'll learn Iron Man and Captain America kind of have like a little bit of tension between them because of Howard Stark always talking about Captain America. So that's definitely a thing that's also established with that. But no, the ending of this movie, when he wakes up in the bed, and he hears the Dodgers game on the radio, and that's the crazy thing, is he's sitting there and he's listening to this and he hears it and he's like, oh, I was at this game. So if I just woke up, how am I hearing this? And that's when he realizes that something's up. So then he busts out, and then he ends up in Times Square, and you just see Captain America looking around at like modern day New York, and it's just so awesome and crazy. Like, you can just tell he's super confused and doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, you can tell by like the clothes he's wearing. He's wearing like this white shirt and like brown pants. You could tell he dresses like they dressed him like he's still in the 1940s too. And then you see him standing there with the colorful nature of Times Square. With the buildings and the lights and everything. He looks so out of place there, and he's just wondering what happened. And Nick Fury comes up, tells him that he's been asleep for almost 70 years. And then we also get one of the best lines in the entire MCU. I had a date. The feel. Yeah,
another just thing to pull at your heartstrings, bro. Just another thing that he's like, I had a date, and it's just like, oh man, like, because he's never gonna get that date. Because it's just been so long. But then eventually we learn he finds Peggy Carter. She's still alive, but she's a really old woman, and that's another thing that happens in the other movies. So we'll talk about that. So now, closing out Phase 1 in 2012, we have the first Avengers movie.
Woo!
And this movie is in my top 3 MCU movies. This one is up there.
For me,
that's how
good
4. This movie is.
Yeah, I love this movie. It's number 4, and I'll tell you, the other 3 once we get to those movies.
Yeah.
But yes, it's top. This movie, for what it was at its time, if you look back at the movies, especially the superhero movies that have been released around that time, like, we had never seen, so many characters come together just for one big superhero film. And I'm not talking about Fantastic Four and all those. Like, this is when this is when you first, see what the MCU actually was. All right, because phase 1 was all about building up these characters, introducing us to them, like Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, and they're all on their solo journeys, and then they all get brought together. They bring in Natasha. We got introduced to her in Iron Man 2. They bring in Hawkeye. We were introduced to him in the first Thor. And they bring Loki as the main villain, also from the Thor. This is when you first see, alright, this is actually a cinematic universe. We see these characters interacting with one another. And, there's just so many great moments to pick up from this film. The film from the beginning to end, it's just great. There's really no dull moments in this movie for me.
This movie is full of one-liners and memorable quotes. God. Like this movie, I remember seeing this.
What's your favorite line from this movie?
My favorite line in this movie is when Captain America everybody knows that Captain America tells Tony to take off the suit. What are you? And then Tony Stark says,
"Yes,
a billionaire playboy philanthropist." That's
oh my God.
That is the alpha line.
Yes.
But one of my other favorite lines in this movie too is during the Battle of New York, whenever they're talking to Mark Ruffalo and he's like, "Well, my secret actually is I'm always angry." And then he just turns into the Hulk and it's like, "Bro, that's so alpha."
Oh my God! Also, another line, and we could talk for days about the one-liners in this movie. One of my favorite lines is at the beginning of the Battle of New York. You see, one of them, Iron Man, is talking to Loki, and he's like, "We have a Hulk," and also, there's also and it's right after Iron Man, puts on his suit. And I think that was the Mark 7 at that point. He goes up to Loki.
I'm not well versed in what the marks are.
Yeah, I believe it was the Mark 7, but he flies up the Loki, and he's like, "There's also one other guy you pissed off. His name was Phil." And there's another line, and I tell you, there's so many that come to my head. When he's flying, and then the creatures are chasing after him. He's like, "I'm bringing the party to you," and and then Black Widow goes like, "I don't see how that's a party." It's just filled with one-liners, one after another and another. Like the scene where, and I compare this, you see in Dragon Ball Super Broly when Broly's just tossing Goku around. Every time I watch Dragon Ball
scene
Super,
with Hulk in it.
All you think about is Hulk smashing, Loki around, and then Loki makes the cat sound, and then Hulk goes like, "Puny God." And,
it's in this movie, like we said earlier with the Incredible Hulk, the Hulk in this movie is a great supporting character.
Yes.
He is, and Mark Ruffalo does a very good job of making us forget Edward Norton ever existed.
Yep.
And the thing in this movie is we get a bunch of quotes from him where he's like, they're like, why'd you leave? Or we're going back to New York, and he's like, "I don't think the people of New York liked me that much last time I went there. I pretty much leveled Harlem."
I leveled Harlem. Oh,
yeah, and he also talks about how he in the scene where they're all talking about the they're all arguing with each other and the scepter's in there, and then he talks about how he tried to put a bullet in his mouth, and whenever he pulled the trigger, the other guy spit it out, which, if you have seen The Incredible Hulk, you still wouldn't know that is a deleted scene, like a deleted opening where Edward Norton's character
suicide. Yes.
Yeah, he goes to Antarctica, tries to commit suicide, but that doesn't happen. The Hulk, even though it's not exactly how it plays out, as they say in the Avengers, because they kind of change it up in the Avengers, in the Incredible Hulk, in that deleted scene, Edward Norton's getting ready to pull the trigger, but then the Hulk, his eyes turn green and he crushes the gun. But since we never saw that, they can change it to whatever they want. But also in that is a lot of people know about this now, but the Hulk, once he changes and he's in Antarctica, is when the ice is being broken, for a split second, if you pause it, you can see Captain America frozen in the ice.
Yes, yes. If you search up the YouTube video, you'll see it. Captain America.
There's a couple YouTube videos where you can find a couple of them are low quality, but there is a really high quality one. And if you go into the comments, there's a timestamp right where you need to look. And it's definitely very little and you'd miss it, but definitely a really awesome thing that they were even hinting to Captain America, in there, that he was frozen in the ice. But no, this movie is so good at bringing all these characters together. Bunch of memorable lines, memorable interactions, like when Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, or like when Thor and Iron Man are fighting after Thor takes Loki.
Yes.
And it's like whenever they first capture Loki after Loki wants to be captured, he like whenever they're like, oh, there's a thunderstorm outside or whatever, and then Loki's just like, yes, and I'm not too fond of what follows. And then we see Thor land on top of the jet, and it's like, we're like, oh shit, and he comes in and he just takes him, bro, and then they all go and fight, and then Thor's like, oh, you want some of this hammer, and he fucking goes at Captain America, and Captain America puts his shield up, and then there's the vibrations and all that shit. It's like just so many memorable scenes in this. The final fight, which definitely this final fight has repercussions for the rest of the MCU. And that's the thing that I like. But in this movie, we thought this was the end because we didn't know if Phase 2 was coming. We thought that this was like the end because there was no announcement for Phase 2 or anything. Like, this could have been the last movie, and we didn't know.
For real, man. And even if it was, it would have been, a great way to end it in a way. But the fact that it's not the end. It's more like a new beginning because it sets up Thanos. Because we later find out in Infinity War, this was all, the Battle of New York. Everything that happened in Avengers 1 was planned by Thanos because he was trying to get the stones back then. And it kind of, confused me a little bit because, if you look at it in the Avengers movie, the first Avengers movie takes place in 2012, and we don't see Thanos attack until 2018. And basically, we know since it's a universe, time kind of goes in the same way our time goes. So Thanos waited 6 years after he sent Loki to finally go after the Infinity Stones. Why did he wait so long? That's another discussion for another day. But the fact is, you could tell they were building towards, Infinity War and Endgame even back then. Because it sets up, and I think we'll talk about that more when we get to Age of Ultron. But, you could see when Iron Man, when Tony goes in with the missile and he fires it, they were already planting those seeds right away of where they were going, what they were building towards. And it's just great. The final battle in New York, it's a long battle scene, but it's so great. The action does never stops. I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good movie. And the thing is in this movie, is when we get introduced to Thanos in the post-credit scene. And that's when we knew that more movies had to be coming.
Yes.
But in this movie, dog, like, at the end of, like, you could tell they weren't quite sure still what they were going to be doing with Thanos. Because at the end of Avengers, when we see Thanos turn, he says to challenge them is to court death. And the thing with that is that in the comic books, in the Thanos quest, Thanos goes after the Infinity Stones so that he can please Mistress Death. So whenever I saw that, I had heard of the Infinity Saga and the Thanos quest and all that stuff, and I saw that and I popped because I had read those comic books before, and they changed that up on you. I don't even remember what the stupid reason is now. What is it? He's like, there's not enough food in the universe, not enough resources. All that stuff now, but originally, like they still didn't know exactly what they wanted to do with Thanos, but they still did. They wanted to be like, hey, this is the big bad.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of people don't realize this. They thought they just got some random actor to come in to play Thanos in, those first couple appearances. No, people don't realize, in 2012 when we first see Thanos and in Age of Ultron and all that was Josh Brolin. They set this up years and years in advance, and as we see them.
Actually,
am I right about that?
In Avengers 1, it was actually a different dude. His name was Damian Poitier. I don't know how to say
right. It was Age of Ultron. That's when we got.
Yeah, it was Age of Ultron.
All right, my bad. But
yeah, it was different in the first Avengers movie. But in that it didn't really even matter in that one, honestly. But yeah, you can go ahead with what you were saying. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. But you said it best when we first see Thanos. You can tell that they were making more movies. It's not like the DC universe where they tease Darkseid and we never that never comes to fruition. Here,
yeah, we never hear about fucking Darkseid. Don't even get me started with the DCEU.
I just had to throw that out there. But still,
the DCEU pisses me off, dog. DC superheroes are some of my favorite superheroes. DC has some of the coolest fucking superheroes of all time, and they don't know how to do this shit. Come on. If Marvel can make Iron Man an A-list superhero, dog, you have Superman and Batman. How do you not know how to... Oh my god, bro.
I just don't understand how they can't do it correctly.
I know.
Hey.
Make me wait almost 8 damn years for Batman versus Superman, and then I get Jesse Eisenberg not knowing what the fuck... if he's Lex Luthor or if he's the Joker. Like, I don't even know, bro.
It's wild.
Anyway, Avengers 1. Really fucking good.
Yep.
Like, nothing else. Really enjoy that movie. And then, for me, it's my number 3 favorite. Number 3 favorite to me is the Avengers. You said it's number 4 for you. So now we're gonna take a little tiny break before we get into phase 2. And because I believe right now we're running close to an hour already, so this is gonna be a really, really long podcast.
Oh gosh.
So we're gonna take a little 10-second break, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about phase 2. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And yeah, we'll see you next. Welcome, everybody, to part 2 of the Dragon Ball Network podcast, where we're breaking down the entire MCU. We just finished phase 1, talked about the Avengers and how much we love that movie, where it ranks on our list, and now we're going to be getting into phase 2. And phase 2 kicks us off with Iron Man 3. This is, in my opinion, I like this movie. This is the first Iron Man movie that isn't directed by Jon Favreau, and I don't think that's a bad thing. A lot of people wish that Favreau would also come back for 3, but I don't. 3 is wishy-washy because there's a lot of things in this movie that don't really matter. They really ruin one of my favorite characters, but it's that's something we'll get into while we're discussing it. What do you think about this movie? It was still really good at the box office, but
I enjoyed Iron Man 3. It's not up there. I already said Iron Man 1 is my favorite of the 3 Iron Man. Iron Man 3 is my second favorite one. I enjoyed Iron Man 3. It's not up there with, some of the other Marvel films. But, basically, it's a different take. You could tell, they were going a different direction. They wanted to go a different direction with Iron Man 3 with the first 2, especially with the change of directors. But this is it's not a bad movie at all. There are some things that they could have done better. But Iron Man 3 overall it's a decent film, and I felt like it was a decent way to start off phase 3.
Yeah. the thing about Iron Man 3 for me is one, how they handled the Mandarin, two, how the movie ends, and then three, just kind of, they changed up the director on it, and Shane Black, who isn't a bad director at all. He has some really good hits, but this movie just kind of falls flat for me. It doesn't really feel like a huge MCU movie. Now, this movie, the thing that I really hate is how they ruin the Mandarin. Now, the Mandarin, you can say what you want. I've heard different takes. People say he's a really racist character. I think he's one of the coolest characters that Iron Man faces because of the whole rings. And I know they probably didn't want to do the Mandarin from the comic books because they're like, oh, he has all the rings, that's how he gets his power, probably too close to Thanos and his story.
Yeah,
but they changed the Mandarin, which this isn't a bad thing about it. They changed the Mandarin to kind of like Osama bin Laden, like a terrorist. And in today's society, that makes sense because obviously you're not going to have a Chinese magician like you're not going to throw that in the way that the MCU was heading. He wasn't going to be the main character of that. Now, if they were going to do that, I would have much rather preferred maybe Iron Man also had like maybe the first Iron Man movie hinted towards the Mandarin, and then they built up to the Mandarin, but they didn't do that. And in this movie, Tony also struggles with PTSD, which is something that is really different from the rest of the MCU movies. There's not often that you see these movies where someone's actually dealing with like something really emotional like this. And like this movie all in all, I think it's okay, it's different. In this movie we also see the Iron Patriot, stuff like that. It's really just one of those movies where it's kind of, it's Iron Man 3. You can watch it. It's a decent movie. But the ending of it, where Iron Man retires, just really messes everything up for me.
Wait, why? I'm kind of curious.
Because at the end, he's like, yeah, I'm done. But then all of a sudden, he's like, no, I'm back. Like...
Yeah. I can
destroys
see why.
All the suits, and then he's like, whatever,
I can see why, because after when he retires and then he just shows up, back. We knew he wasn't gonna stay retired because Age of Ultron and everything like that. Maybe if they have done some more explaining, or maybe they would have shown some more seeds, of how he came back. They kind of explained that a little bit in the Civil War, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah. I actually really enjoyed how they had, Tony going through the whole PTSD anxiety thing. One, because it showed, because one thing when I first saw these movies of Phase 2, I was concerned that they were going to kind of ignore what happened in Avengers 1, everybody goes off other separate ways. And it's some other, superhero companies, they don't know how to do it, but I'm really glad that they didn't choose to ignore. I don't want to get you all riled up, but I'm happy that they went that direction to go with the PTSD, because like you said, they don't always do that with superhero characters. And it was an interesting take. Plus, they did one of my favorite things is when Tony's in bed with Pepper and they're sleeping, and Tony's having the nightmare going back and dealing with the Battle of New York. I absolutely love it. And the fact is, they continue that from Avengers 1 into Iron Man 3 and even into Age of Ultron. And et cetera, et cetera. It's not just something that ends in Iron Man 3. It goes on throughout the rest of the movie he appears in. And I love it. Also, the final battle scene. I love how they let Pepper get more in on the action. With her, and definitely I hope they continue that with Endgame, which we'll talk about later when we do our theories.
Yeah.
But definitely, I love the final battle where he has all his suits, just fighting. I call it one of my favorite CGI battles because it was mostly CGI.
Yeah.
But you want to say something?
Yeah, definitely. With the with him making the automated suits, that definitely starts going towards the idea that he doesn't want to be Iron Man anymore, but he does want to, like, Iron Man could still exist, and that kind of leads him to make the Ultron project,
Yes.
which leads us into Age of Ultron. And that's one thing
Yes.
I'll give this movie, is it does do that.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, this movie, I think, again, it's below, it's not, it's like average, a little below that, at least to me. But, you know, it's not horrible.
No,
Like,
for
we're
me,
about
yeah.
we're about to get to horrible. We're about
Oh,
to, like, the
man.
next movie that
Yeah,
we're about
I
to
know
get
exactly
to
where
is-
you're going, man. Oh,
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Yeah,
Iron
no.
Man 3, but if we're talking about horrible MCU films, ooh,
Bro, we're talking about Thor: The Dark World.
oh my
That's
gosh.
what we're talking about. This movie is so fucking boring. Dude. Like what is it? Bro, this movie, I don't even know what to say. Okay, so this movie
The
is
worst MCU villain of all time.
Malekith the Dark Elf, which in the comic books he's actually a really serious villain, but here he's fucking nothing, bro. Like, and then Natalie Portman in this movie, bro. Like, I don't know what happened, but she's horrible in this movie.
I feel like they tried to force her too much. Like
Yeah.
the way they did it in the first Thor, you know, she wasn't. It was more about Chris Hemsworth and introducing him, but like, you know, they just try too much to make her more. And then, you know, one of my biggest problems with this film is they tried too hard to connect the cosmic realm with Earth. And like,
Yeah.
all that, like, the final battle in this movie, you know, like, it's not only confusing, you know, to keep up and keep track with, but it's just, you know, not good. It's not entertaining, really, you know. And I feel like, for me, personally, it felt a little bit just too serious. And it wasn't a dark movie in a way, but I felt like from the beginning of the movie, they go with this serious tone. And they just never really give you a moment to lighten up with these characters. And you know, I just really don't enjoy that. Like, yes, you know, Chris Hemsworth, he does his thing, and you can really see, you know, the growth and the more of the maturity in Thor's character, which is one of the only positives I'll give this film at all. And yes, you know, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, you know, continues to do his thing. But other than that, really, this movie is just, it's a skippable film, to be honest.
Well, I wouldn't say it's completely skippable, only because it does introduce the Reality Stone. It introduces the Collector, and then it also introduces at the end Loki impersonating Odin, which we get a
Would lead
payoff
for Thor Ragnarok, yes.
in Thor Ragnarok, which is something that we'll get to here soon. But yeah, this movie, definitely, I put this one under Incredible Hulk. I would rather watch Incredible Hulk than this movie.
In my opinion, this is the worst MCU film.
Yeah, and to me too, I would rather watch The Incredible Hulk than this movie. And The Incredible Hulk, you don't even need to watch. That's how bad this movie is.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So now we're getting to one of, you know, we usually say that Marvel movies don't know how to do twos, but now we're leading into Captain America the Winter Soldier, which honestly is, in my opinion, in phase 2, one of my favorite movies, honestly.
Definitely. You know, like Iron Man 2 wasn't really the best. Thor: The Dark World, you guys heard us rant about that. You know,
Garbage.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier, one of the only twos that Marvel does that absolutely sticks the landing. You know, we get introduced to Anthony and Joe Russo, you know, their first movie in the MCU, and they absolutely kill it. You know, I said earlier, you know, I look at Captain America: The Winter Soldier as the real introduction to the Black Widow. You know, because this is the way they did her in this movie was the way they should have done it in Iron Man 2. You know, plus, you know, I know how much you love the Winter Soldier in this movie. They did him perfectly in this.
Yeah, and the thing about this movie is, yes, Captain America's in the title, but this is the story of Bucky Barnes in the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
Like, this this movie does that character so well. And, usually you'd think, okay, cool, he's just another bad guy. But no, the way that they have this connection with him and Steve Rogers in this movie,
Yeah.
it's like you see that he's been brainwashed, and who Bucky was. You watch the first movie, and it definitely, that's another thing that pulls at your heartstrings. And in this movie, we also get introduced to the Falcon, who is another one of those characters where he's kind of comedy relief in this movie a little bit, but definitely another welcome character in here. And just another thing of talking about Hydra and Shield and all that stuff in this movie. It's more of a spy movie. Like, it gives you more spy movie vibes than it does just normal superhero movie vibes. And I like that about this movie.
Yeah. Also in this movie, we see more of Nick Fury. I definitely love how they did him in this movie. And they give like Maria Hill a bigger role as well. This also has, in my opinion, one of the best action sequences of all of the first 21 Marvel movies. The bridge scene.
Yep.
Incredible. There's not enough good you could say about that. We could do a whole podcast just analyzing that one scene alone. Like,
if you remember, do you remember the trailers for this movie when Captain America throws the shield
and he catches
the Winter Soldier and he catches it?
Yes.
Bro, that was such an alpha scene.
Yes.
Like,
it was just for a trailer.
Like, oh shit.
That's when you knew they were gonna do the Winter Soldier right. I was like, oh my gosh.
I was so excited for this movie, bro.
Mm-hmm. And I love those.
It's definitely, and it definitely, it pays off everybody. Like, we get the Winter Soldier's redemption, which is another big thing. The redemption of Bucky Barnes, and it's definitely a really good movie. I'd put it in my top. It's in my top 5. I would say this is probably my number 5 favorite.
Yeah, for me, it's right around number 5 or number 6 on the list. I would have to go back, but it's right there. It's so good.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes in here too is the glass elevator scene where.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I just. Does anybody want to get out? Yeah.
Yeah, like you can tell they're just all standing there, and the tension.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, bro. Like, just that whole fight scene in general just felt like something out of, like, Mission Impossible or something.
Yes!
It was so awesome, dog.
You get them Tom Cruise vibes. They absolutely killed it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a really good movie. I'd say this is a top tier. This is definitely a top tier MCU movie.
Yes.
So,
and the thing about it is, also, one more thing before we move on.
Yeah.
I think we have Guardians of the Galaxy after this.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is next.
But, the thing I love about this movie also is it's not like traditional superhero movies because they set up for Bucky Barnes that story to continue with the end. They didn't kill him. They didn't have him get captured, and, where he goes to jail or anything. In a way, it's almost like Bucky, or not, the Winter Soldier in a way, because Bucky and the Winter Soldier are two different things. But it's like, almost like the Winter Soldier kind of wins, in a way, because, he loses to Cap, but then he almost gets, like, the last laugh, because Cap almost nearly died. But then, right at the end, Bucky kind of comes to his senses just a little bit, just to save him. And they set it up at the end where, you can tell with the third Captain America movie, they're going to continue that, where they're going to have Captain America. He's still, searching for Bucky because he wants to see if he can save him. And I absolutely love that. They could have gone the route where they killed him or they throw him in jail or anything like that, but no, they went a unique route.
Yeah, they could have definitely gone the route of, at the end of the movie, like Bucky dies or something, and like that would be like the typical superhero movie thing to do, like where like at the end of the movie the villain like gets captured or something or all that stuff. But they definitely, at the end of this movie, Joe and Anthony Russo, like they know how to make an MCU movie, dog.
Yes.
So
and just showed it,
Yeah, so after that great movie, we get another great movie, which
Woo.
nobody expected to be a
Nobody
great movie.
expected this movie to be as good as it was.
Yeah, and Guardians of the Galaxy, bro. This movie is so good. The cast too, dog. It has Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper as Rocket, Vin Diesel as Groot.
Oh,
Like, bro, it has and then it has like oh god, name escaping me. Star-Lord, Peter Quill.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Yeah, like watching him on watching him on TV is the fat funny guy, and now becoming a like a superhero, which he's still not really a hero in this movie. Like none of them are really heroes.
No,
But that's the thing that's good about it when it brings them together. And bro,
it's more like anti-heroes.
Yeah, anti-heroes, really. And bro, the thing that brings this movie together the most is the soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack is incredible. Incredible. It's arguably the best soundtrack in any Marvel movie.
And I don't remember exactly what the sales are, but the volume mix that they did for this movie, I remember so many people buying it.
Yeah.
Because like that's how good it was. Like this movie, like it's silly. And that's the thing about this movie is it wasn't like to be taken too seriously. It had some serious moments. It had Ronan the Accuser in it, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But it was a really silly movie, and I actually enjoyed that.
It was more of a fun, and it more expanded on the cosmic realm of the MCU. Introduce it. And the thing about it is, excuse me. Thing about it is, if you read the comics, this was not the original team of the Guardians.
No, dude. There's been so many Guardians, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And when they were first, the marketing for this movie came out, people were wondering how are people going to, react to this team of the Guardians, and the reactions were so good. This was not supposed to be a serious movie. You could tell this was supposed to be a more fun MCU film.
And this really set the tone also going forward that the movies didn't have to be all serious. You could put funny moments in the movie.
Yeah,
and
for real.
It would still do well. And this movie, I think, really influences, too, Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Like, that it can be a silly superhero movie. And we'll get to Thor Ragnarok. But, bro, this movie is great. Dave Bautista, I think, like, me and you watch wrestling, so we know who Bautista is.
When I found out he was playing Drax, I was so excited.
Bro, I was like, dude, this is so awesome, right? Because somebody that I've watched on TV is now like The Rock when he went into movies and stuff. But he is genuinely funny in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, the scene where he attacks Gamora and Peter's trying to convince him otherwise. When we find Ronan I think it was Ronan. Yeah, you get to kill him, and he does the symbol where he's cut off the neck or slits the neck.
The neck.
And then
throat.
And Drax goes like, why? Well, I forget the line. Then what's the I forget the line.
I can't remember the line either, bro.
Yeah, but the thing about it, I bet our listeners definitely who watch the movie know what we're talking about. But just Drax in general. And I feel like Batista, he did some actual wrestling moves, I believe, in this movie. Like some of the kicks and things he did, I've seen him do on TV as well. Like definitely, it's great. Also, Zoe what's her name? Zoe Saldana, I believe.
Zoe. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, who plays Gamora? One of my favorite characters in the MCU, to be honest. I love the way she portrays Gamora in this film. Also, one thing I think we gotta know, we also see Thanos in this film.
Yeah, we get introduced to Thanos and like the Infinity Stone quest and all that stuff.
Yes, I think this was the first time we saw the Power Stone.
Yeah.
And we also got a more of an introduction when they're talking to the Collector about the other Infinity Stones. And they also teased the Eternals in this. So we thought we were going to get the Eternals in Phase 3. but that got pushed and we're most likely.
No, that's supposed to be Phase 4 now.
That's why I meant. That's why I meant it got pushed to Phase 4. But
what do you think about Vin Diesel getting a payday in here to say 3 words? Actually, 4 words technically.
It was great. Great. You know, I don't mind it at all. I freaking love I Am Groot. I can hear that all day.
Everybody that I've talked to about this movie remembers I Am Groot.
Yes.
Like, everybody remembers that. And the thing about, at the end of this movie, they pull your heartstrings, then he's like,
We are Groot.
We are Groot. And bro, like, I know it's supposed to be serious, but when he said that, I about lost my shit, too.
Yes.
Like, this movie's funny. I really enjoyed it. And it's definitely one that I would say, definitely go watch this. This is a top tier MCU movie to me.
Yes, definitely top tier for real. Because it wasn't supposed to be that good. All right.
No, it wasn't.
And the fact that it did as well as it did.
It was kind of an experiment, you know, Marvel going out there and saying, well, how about we just grab this team that nobody really cares about? Like, in the comic books, no one really cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So, like, they were like, let's see what we can do. And now they've made them in the mainstream, and that's awesome.
They're critical, to the MCU.
So after this, we get Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, for me, I have a little bit of a... This movie, to me, I don't enjoy it that much. I enjoy Ultron, but I feel like Ultron is a villain that you can't cram into one movie. And this movie, it definitely has its moments with it. We get introduced to Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Vision, all this stuff. And, you know, this movie also leads to events in future movies. It's just, like, I don't know. This movie doesn't really hit home for me. It's Avengers. It's cool. But it's like... I don't know. I feel like I definitely enjoyed the first Avengers way more than this one.
For me, when it comes to Age of Ultron, all right, I when I went in, I knew that it wasn't going to be as good as the Avengers 1. Because I just wanted to see what the movie was going to be. And at first, if you read, Ultron is a very big character, a very important character in the Marvel comics. You know, he's not one that just goes away easily, you know. Mm-hmm. But I can understand, because if this was more of a TV show or something, Ultron would probably stick around, and they could definitely find ways to bring Ultron back if they really wanted to.
Honestly, I think in Endgame, we're throwing this in here just while we're talking about this. I think that we'll probably see Ultron again if time travel is involved.
Yeah, that is true, definitely. If they have to go back, I could see them revisiting the Battle of Sokovia. You know.
Honestly, and it's another thing in here, dude. I love James Spader. Like, I think he does an amazing job as Ultron. Yeah. And then in this movie, also we see Ulysses Claw, Andy Serkis, bro.
Yes, yes.
Like, he's just like, "What's up?" Like, bro.
I definitely. I wish he had a bigger role in this movie, but we definitely see him more pay off in Black Panther, which we'll talk about when we get to that. But you know, Age of Ultron, you know, for me, it's the worst of all the Avengers film, and I'm even saying that even though I haven't seen Endgame, I'm already gonna put Endgame above Age of Ultron, no matter what, you know. But Age of Ultron, it's not terrible in a way. It's just, you know, I felt like it was just coming off of what they did with Avengers. It was
lackluster, bro. Yes. It wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't like I said, it doesn't really hit home. Like, it's an Avengers movie. It's cool. And this movie sends out repercussions for the, like, future movies, but, like...
Yeah, like, for...
It just feels like another movie, honestly.
For real. Because, also, we gotta remember, it was following 2 great MCU movies with The Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy. And I felt like people just thought, automatically, alright, since we're bringing back the Avengers now, it's going to be great. And this movie does have some great moments. I love the interaction with the OG Avengers. You know, we're continuing their building as a team. And they also, you know, they started building towards, you know, Civil War with what happens with Tony and Cap, you know, that farm scene. and I love it. Also, they continue with Tony.
Bro, the
and
farm scene though is what kind of kills this movie too. Like once they get to the farm, bro, this movie just kind of gets like boring and kind of goes downhill.
Yeah, I feel like with the farm scene, they had to do it just because after the Avengers, they technically get their ass kicked, by Ultron. They had to, die down, not really die down, but they had to, slow down the pace a little bit. But, there's a couple things. I'm trying to think. One, I wanted to get your opinion. What did you think of the Hulkbuster versus Hulk fight?
I love it. Honestly, I think that's one of my favorite parts in the movie. I love Scarlet Witch controlling the Hulk's mind and making him go crazy. And it's like honestly one of the coolest scenes in the movie for me.
Definitely. I love how Tony goes like, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. and Hulk is just angry as hell. Sorry, I should have mentioned Puny Banner and all that. Also, they also tried to bring like romance a little bit into this with the whole Black Widow Bruce Banner thing. Yeah. And definitely I felt like it was a good concept, but I feel like they should have tried to elaborate on a little bit more. Like definitely in MCU,
I feel like we haven't really seen much romance, of it. Yeah, hopefully Endgame will maybe
that's what
do
I'm saying. Like
that,
that's what I'm saying. I feel like the way they ended with Hulk going into space, you could kind of tell they were setting that up for the next.
Bro,
movie.
I was really hoping that we were gonna get like a Planet Hulk movie, which we kind of get. Like I thought that's what was gonna happen after Hulk went into space. I was like, bro, we're gonna get Planet Hulk, then we're gonna get World War Hulk. Like, bro, I was like, but. Then of course we know we didn't get that. We kind of did, but it's
definitely with Age of Ultron. It's not a bad film. We're not saying it's a bad.
No,
film.
It's not. It's not like I said. It's just lackluster, but it's not a bad film. Is Thor: The Dark World? This movie is way better than Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, it's just following Avengers movie 1. Yeah. Following Avengers 1 and Captain America: Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy. It was just really difficult. And I'm not going to blame Joss Whedon and the rest of the crew on this. Because they did their best with what they had. It just wasn't as good as some of these other movies.
And then after this, Joss was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, peace, I'm going to go ruin the Justice League.
Oh my gosh. We might have to do a future podcast on the DC movies and what the fuck they did wrong.
Bruh. The DC movies get me heated. But no, this movie definitely mid-tier at best. Not bad, but not amazing. And then after this, kind of on a weird note, like usually you would think the Avengers movie end off like, the phases, but they throw in Ant-Man. And the thing with Ant-Man is, I know a lot of people didn't go to the theaters to watch this movie. Like they were kind of like, Age of Ultron was like, they were like it's good, but then a lot of people held off on Ant-Man.
Yeah, because one thing is, if you look at the comics, Ant-Man is one of the original Avengers.
He's one of the original Avengers. Yeah, the Hank Pym Ant-Man. Anyway.
Yes, the Hank Pym. And I felt like they could have done Ant-Man. They could have done it, maybe earlier in Phase 2.
I think they could have done it before the Avengers movie, honestly.
That's what I was saying. Because I felt like everyone was like... But maybe because they wanted that bridge between Age of Ultron and Civil War. And, everything that happened there. We'll get to Civil War in just a couple seconds. But Ant-Man, for what it was, when I went to see this film, I didn't take it too seriously. Not because I didn't care, because I did care. I care about everything Marvel does. The thing about it is, it was a movie that had a smaller scale. It was more of a fun movie in a way.
Thing was, it's a really good movie.
Yes, it's not a bad movie. It's actually a good movie in my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
It's a fun movie.
There's comedy in it, and I love Paul Rudd. So him in this movie, it's like it's gonna be kind of funny. So like just him playing a superhero is funny in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So like this movie, like it shows us more of a different side of the Marvel Universe too by talking about the quantum realm, which is going to come in handy here in Avengers Endgame. I'm sorry guys, we keep bringing up Avengers Endgame, but it comes out tomorrow. We're so fucking excited.
Yeah.
Like there's all these things that when we go through this, that there's just bits and pieces that all are going to like, you know, like be in this new movie, and we're all just super excited. But no, this movie is really good, dude.
It honestly is. You know, I enjoyed Ant-Man. You know, it's not a movie you're supposed to take too seriously because it's more of a fun movie. It's supposed,
it's more of a comedy, bro.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a bridge. You know, after Guardians of the Galaxy, I felt like Marvel just, you know, they felt more confident in doing movies with comedy. Like on one side, you do a couple serious movies, and then you do a comedy movie to bring you know the tone a little bit down a little bit. And it worked. It worked. You know, I enjoyed Ant-Man. It didn't do as high at the box office as some of these other films, but it's definitely an enjoyable film. It's a fun family film, in my opinion.
I don't think a lot of people thought that a Marvel movie with Paul Rudd at the maybe that's why people didn't go see it, because they're like, oh, Paul Rudd is a superhero. Come on, don't be be serious. But bro, one of my favorite parts of this movie too is Michael Pena's character.
Michael Pena, yes.
Bro, he is hilarious. I want him to just narrate everything, bro. He's so funny.
Part of me hopes, and I know we keep talking about Endgame. Part of me, I'm praying because I don't know if he survived the snap or not. All right, do you know?
He better have, bro.
Oh,
him,
like if he does,
the Russian dude, and T.I.,
man,
bro. They all needed to survive.
If he did, he has to appear in Endgame. He has to. Like, imagine
they should like show him. He's like, "Whoa, it's Captain America, bro."
Yeah, facts. Like, whoa, man, this is the Avengers base. You're Iron Man. Oh my gosh. Like, that would be awesome. That would be an automatic thumbs up for me for Endgame.
That would just I think that would have the whole theater laughing, bro. Everybody loves that character.
Yeah. Also, one last part before we move on. You know, with Ant-Man. You know, one thing I love is one of my favorite parts is when he's fighting. What's the
Yellow Jacket?
Yellow Jacket, and at in his daughter's bedroom, and they're like fighting with the trains and everything.
Oh, bro, the train, bro.
It's so intense, but then you go back into like real size, and
then and it like zooms out, and you just see it kind of like crash.
Yes, like oh man, love it,
bro. The comedy in this movie is really good, and I think it's really underrated because a lot of people didn't go to see it, but. Like, I think that it did really good when it came out on DVD and people watched it and they were like, whoa, why didn't I go see this in theaters, bro?
Honestly.
Yeah, so, yeah, a weird way to end up Phase 2 with Ant-Man instead of an Avengers movie, but definitely kind of ended on a high note, at least to me. So, that's going to end it here for Phase 2 with us. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Phase 3, which eventually leads us into Avengers Endgame, which, again, comes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
woo!
So we're gonna get right back to that, and hopefully you guys enjoyed part 2, and we'll see you in part 3. Welcome everybody back to the Dragon Ball Network podcast, and we are still talking about the MCU today, and we have now hit Phase 3. Now, to begin Phase 3 begins on a super high note. Captain America Civil War.
Oh my gosh.
Or as a lot of people call it, Avengers 2.5.
Yes.
This movie is so good, bro.
This is number 3 on my list. For all the I love this movie so much.
Yeah, Civil War for me is number 2.
Oh man! Like, and the thing about it is, you know, first of all, the trailers.
Bro, the trailers got us hyped for this movie, dog.
Well, one of my favorite reactions is, you know, Tyrone Magnus.
Yeah.
Yeah. His if you haven't, go just go back later and just search up his reactions to the Civil War trailers. Some of my favorite trailer reactions I've ever seen. Because I remember when the trailer released, it was like 2 a.m. in the morning because it got leaked. The first one trailer got leaked. I remember waking up that morning. I had to go to school, and then my friend sent it to me. And then he also sent me his Tyrone's reaction to it. I went freaking nuts. All right, and this is the thing about it is this is when the trailer misdirection that the Russos are known for started. People think it started with Infinity War. No. It started here with Civil War.
This was the first one.
Like for real, like they held so much. They showed you a lot in those trailers, but they held back so much about the film. And the thing about it is, I'll let you beat it.
Dog, the thing about this movie is that it's called Civil War, right? And the thing about it is the Civil War like event in the comic books, which I have actually read.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
dude, it is massive, and the fact like you couldn't fit it into one movie. You could not fit that like into one movie at all. So what they did, it does have the name Civil War, and it takes some elements, but it's completely different.
It's completely
but it does it in a good way.
Comics, yeah.
But it does it in a good way.
It's still great.
Before we even get into the movie, the last trailer for this movie, introducing Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
My favorite Marvel villain since I was Marvel hero since I was a child, bro. I had Spider-Man wallpaper. I loved all the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
I got so hyped when they did this because Tobey Maguire, in my opinion, Tom Holland is very close. Endgame might do it for me, and I don't know, what's gonna happen with Endgame and Spider-Man, but I'm guessing somehow based on what the IBM, Tom Holland does appear in Endgame, hint or whatever. Yeah. But Tom Holland is very close, in my opinion, to surpassing Tobey Maguire as the best Spider-Man. But growing up as a little kid,
that's a completely different argument in itself. Only because
I know, true.
Because Tom Holland's a really good MCU Spider-Man.
Yes, of course, of course. And the thing about it is, at the time, two things. I didn't like the Amazing Spider-Man movies that much, which we could talk about.
They're okay. They're okay.
They're not terrible. They're not terrible, but I didn't like them as much as the Tobey Maguire ones. And we'll probably talk about this a little more when we get to Spider-Man: Homecoming in a little bit. Yeah. But definitely at the time there was a big thing going on with Sony because Sony has the rights to Spider-Man, and we didn't know how they were going to incorporate him into the MCU. We didn't even know if they were going to show him at all. And then when he shows up at the end of the second trailer for Civil War, it's so incredible. Tony goes like, Uncle Bruce, and
hey, and then he lands
with the lenses.
He's like, hey everyone. Bro, it was like one of the crazy, and it caused a lot of debate too. People were like, "Oh, he sounds like a little kid." Blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, like honestly, Spider-Man in the comic books like starts when he's like what, like 15, 16?
That's the thing. Yes, like this is the way he was supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. He's not supposed to be a 20-year-old person.
Adult. Like. Yeah, I know in the comic books they have Spider-Man comics, a bunch of them when he's a full-grown adult. But the best Spider-Mans, in my opinion, are the ones when he's just a young kid. Because the thing about Spider-Man that works is that he's relatable. He's so relatable to people our age. So that I love that they went that direction just for the trailer. We haven't even gotten to the movie yet. Really.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the movie. So the movie starts off right with Crossbones, Captain America, all that stuff, Scarlet Witch. And then we get the introduction of Black Panther, which is another huge thing in this movie. Like, and then we see the explosion, Black Panther's father dies, and then they see surveillance footage of the Winter Soldier, and then we get the arc of Black Panther going after the Winter Soldier and all this stuff. Bro, this movie has so much stuff in it. Just like we could break down everything like in this movie. Like we can go over the whole, like, they're like, oh, we need to sign the Hero Registration Act because, all of this stuff happened and we need to be held accountable, all that. We could talk about that, but the real meat and potatoes of this movie is at the airport. Like,
yes.
Bro.
There's so many, like, man, and I just wanted to, before we get to the airport thing, I just want to, think about this, and I talked about this when we talked about Winter Soldier, how they continued, Bucky and his story into Civil War, and it just continues, and the thing about it is, there's not really a villain in this movie. You have Zemo, you have, Bucky the Winter Soldier at points, but and you can also argue that the real villains are the Avengers themselves. Like, they're really not any main villain. But the way that the story goes, there's so many great moments from, T'Challa's father's death. And then also, the highway scene where you have Black Panther chasing after Bucky and, Captain America is coming from behind. You also have that great scene between Tony and Cap when Tony's like, sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth. And then you also have the scene where Bucky escapes and, everyone's chasing after him. I love the part where Tony's in his that suit and, he has like part of the Iron Man suit on his hand and he's fighting Bucky. And then Black Widow's fighting Bucky. And then T'Challa's fighting Bucky. And then, you talk about the helicopter scene. And how all this leads to, then Spider-Man getting introduced. And that leads to what you were just talking about, the airport scene. In my opinion, until now, the best action scene in all of the MCU, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the thing about this movie, too, is, like, when you're in this movie, right, going in, assuming that, like, what side you're on, you're, like, rooting for Cap, right? So you're like, all right, Cap, I understand why, like, what you are and everything, but the thing that really throws this for a loop is when we learn that Bucky kills Tony Stark's parents.
That was the thing. No one saw that coming at all.
No. Bro, and that's when a lot of people kind of flipped. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, now I want Iron Man to win, right?
And the thing about it is, like, if you look in the trailers, we thought the moment where, Tony and Cap's, friendship, when it comes to a head, was when Rhodey gets, shot. When Vision accidentally... And we didn't even talk about... Vision in Age of Ultron at all. I'm just realizing that now.
I brought up Vision. Like, I said that we see, like, Vision being brought up. Again, Vision, cool character. Love that it's Jarvis, with the Mind Stone and everything.
Yeah,
but,
Yep.
Keeping... In this movie, there's so many memorable lines in this movie, too. Like when they're talking about it, or talking about Bucky, and then Cap says, well, he's my friend, and then Iron Man says, so was I. Bro, like you can feel this tension, and I love the whole airport scene. Spider-Man is literally the best thing in the airport scene, where he's like, he does the pop culture reference with Giant Man. Yep. When he's like, they're like, you guys remember that one scene from that old movie where, bro, like, it's great. And then he's holding the thing, and then Captain America's like, where are you from, kid? And he's like Queens, and he's like, Brooklyn, bro.
Yes,
dude, like, that was awesome. And then one of the most alpha things too is whenever the Winter Soldier goes to punch him, and he catches it, and he's like, dude, you have a metal arm? That's so sweet. Bro, like Spider-Man was like one of the most awesome things in this movie. And then
for real.
At the end of the movie, we get Cap versus Iron Man.
Oh man, like I was Team Iron Man. When I saw this in the theater, I went with my friend Nate, and we were legit arguing. He was Team Cap and I was Team Iron Man. And
yeah, I was Team Cap too, because I was like, I understand that's your best friend when that happened. That wasn't your best friend, so you're sticking up for him. I understand that, but I also understand Tony's side where he's like, that dude killed my parents.
For real,
like. I completely understand.
They were just up, and they had just made peace a couple minutes ago. They were gonna work together to take down the super soldiers, and then that happened. Man, there's so many good parts about that.
And then, that scene is so emotional too, right?
Yes.
Whenever Cap's on top of him and he's hitting Tony in the chest with the shield, and then he's starting to walk away, and Tony says, "You don't deserve that shield.
My father built that."
Yeah, and then Cap goes, and then Cap throws it back.
Just throws it down.
Yeah. What's he say? He's like, well, I don't need it anymore or something like that.
And the thing about it is, it's set up basically for the rest of Phase 3. All we wanted, one of the most wanted things, was to see, all right, how and Tony and Cap gonna fix things. Because we knew Infinity War was gonna come. We knew Avengers 4 was going to come, and we all thought, will they fix things in some way before that? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, we knew they had to somehow bring it together somehow, because we knew there was no way that separated that they were beating Thanos.
For real. And, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to Infinity War, but definitely, this movie, it's just beautiful.
Now, after Civil War, which was an amazing movie, we got Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange, to me, it introduces the Time Stone. And this movie, to me, I actually really enjoyed this movie when it came out.
For me, yeah.
A lot of people thought it was weird. It was a weird movie. And I really think that even the name implying Doctor Strange, I thought it was an okay movie. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't but it definitely had its moments.
For Doctor Strange, for me, the thing about it, for me, it was actually, if you watch the trailers, the way it was open your mind and stuff like that. At first, if you read Doctor Strange in the comics, he's very methodical with everything he does. And, I didn't know how they were going to do it with this film. I didn't know what kind of Doctor Strange we were going to get. And,
I also didn't know how I felt about Benedict Cumberbatch being Doctor Strange as well.
Yes.
I didn't know if that was I wasn't sold on that.
I didn't know if that was going to work either, but, excuse me. But both hit so great with audience. It's one of the better origin stories of MCU characters, in my opinion. It's a great origin story. It's a great introduction to Doctor Strange.
Yep, and I think another one of the funny things in the movie is Wong, basically the sidekick. Yeah. I love Wong, and then the end of the movie with him and Dormammu, all that stuff. I enjoy that too. Dormammu, everybody remembers.
Bargain, yes.
Yeah, I've come to bargain. Basically just annoying somebody so many times until they decide to stop.
For real.
Bro, I thought it was a good movie. I feel like I've actually seen this movie way more because it was on Netflix for a long time.
Yes, it was.
And I just found myself watching it over and over again. It's definitely one of those movies that it's actually kind of good. It's not amazing, but it's good.
It's not top tier Marvel films or anything like that. But like I said, it's one of the better introduction stories to an MCU character. And, it's a fun, enjoyable film. It's definitely one of the more underrated Marvel films. It's a middle of the pack,
And then going into another 2, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, this movie, to me, having to follow up the first Guardians of the Galaxy...
It was going to be difficult.
It's really hard. And this movie kind of felt more like a formula. More like a formula Marvel film. And it was kind of it was okay. It had a catchy, it had another catchy soundtrack and everything, but this movie kind of just felt by the numbers again. And I didn't really find myself enjoying it that much. Now, of course, of course, Dave Bautista and Bradley Cooper, like, that's all fun and everything, but, and then Baby Groot as well in that movie is really funny, but, it's not as good as the first one.
Yeah. When it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I enjoyed this film for what it was, but it was nowhere near as good as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. They introduced new characters like Mantis. I'm going to be honest with you.
They got Sylvester Stallone, bro.
Yes, they did.
Sylvester Stallone in there, bro. He's walking up there, and like Michael Rooker's like, hey, like, what's going on? He's like, hey, yo. Bro.
I'm going to be honest, I hated, and I mean this, I hated Ego the Living Planet. I hate him so much. I was like, really? Do we really have to go this route with this whole family thing? Like, they could have done so much better in terms of villain.
Yeah, the Ego story is, whatever. And even in the comic books, Ego isn't Peter Quill's dad.
Yeah,
like that was just something that like the MCU, like they just kind of made up to further progress the story. This movie, it adds a little bit, but other than that, I don't think it's really as good as the first movie, but it's definitely an okay movie.
Yeah, it's not terrible for me. It's a little below average when it comes to the MCU films. Baby Groot, love him. My favorite part of the film, easily. Two favorite parts. One, the tape scene where Rocket has the bob and he's trying to have Groot explain, like, I'm Groot. I'm Groot.
I am Groot.
I'm Groot. And Rocket just flips out. And he's asking Peter. And Peter, they're fighting people outside. He's like, does anybody have any tape? No tape. But my also other favorite scene is the one where, Mantis, they're talking to Mantis. It's him. It's Quill, Gamora, Drax. I think you know where I'm going with this. It's also where the scene where Mantis reads Peter's mind and he's like, you feel romantic, sexual love for Gamora. And then Drax just goes like, and Drax just breaks out in laughter. You feel so embarrassed. Friggin' love it. Love it.
I love the scenes with Drax and Mantis though in that movie.
Yes.
It's
the you're ugly. You're
yeah, they're like, no, you're disgusting. Like, you're ugly, bro. Like, Dave Bautista, really funny.
Yep.
But yeah, that movie a little bit below average, but the next movie, Spider-Man: Homecoming. This is the first MCU Spider-Man movie. I went and saw this movie 3 times. Now, this movie has one of the best villains in it. Like, I love this villain. What's up?
You're talking about Vulture, right?
Yeah, Vulture, bro.
Great.
Yeah, amazing. This movie, it makes you feel like you can relate, because it almost feels like a little bit of an 80s teen movie.
Yep.
And bro, this movie, like, again, this is the first Spider-Man movie that, like, the heads of, like, Kevin Feige and all them, they had a say in this. And, I loved previous Spider-Man movies, except for the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I have my own opinion about that. I could do a whole podcast just breaking down each Spider-Man movie. Like, but no, this really, I think this Spider-Man is really good in the MCU. I don't think he's the best Spider-Man we've ever had, which, again, I guess is a hot take, because people think this is the greatest Spider-Man that we've ever gotten. I know a lot of people like that. But I think this is a good MCU Spider-Man, and I think Michael Keaton literally kills it as the Vulture. Like, because he actually has a purpose in this movie. And the thing about it in this movie is the only reason he turned to villainy is because of Tony Stark.
Yes. Yeah, and they set that up from the beginning of the film. The thing about it is,
this movie messes with the timeline a little bit too. But with the timeline of when the actual events of when the events of the Avengers movie actually happened, but we won't go into that. Go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah. All I know is it does take place after Civil War. It's just a little confused because they kind of messed it up at the beginning.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. One thing I love is that they skipped the origin. They didn't have to go through the whole.
Yeah, they didn't kill Uncle
bit
Ben
by a spider. Like, nah, they kind of did that a little bit with Civil War, but you know, they just jump in with the Peter Parker. He should try, and I love, as I've been saying throughout the podcast, love Tony Stark in this. I love how they put him in that mentor role because they did Iron Man 3 in Phase 2. They didn't wait to do the third Iron Man movie in Phase 3. So they're like, oh, what are we gonna do with Tony? But they put him in that mentor role, and he thrives in it. He thrives. Spider-Man, he spends most of the film just trying to impress Tony. Try to get him to let him do more stuff of that regard. I also freaking love the Homecoming suit. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man suit. Like when I play Spider-Man PS4, I play as that suit a lot. It's enjoyable. It's fun.
Really, you don't use the Tobey Maguire suit?
No, I use that suit too, but I also use the Homecoming suit. I switched through the suits.
Bro, I replayed the whole game in the Tobey Maguire suit, and I feel like I'm just watching Spider-Man 4. It's great.
Oh man, I might have to try that.
You have to do that and play all the DLCs. It was so fun. Like I was like, bro, this is just Spider-Man 4.
Now I might actually just go play Spider-Man PS4 after this. But back to Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Definitely, it was a great film. As I said, Vulture, he doesn't even feel like a villain, really. You could relate with him.
You sympathize with him.
Yeah, you actually feel bad for him. He tried to do that with his family. Like the scene when he figures out who Peter actually is.
Bro, that scene, you can just imagine being in that being in the situation.
It's goosebumps. It's goosebumps. It gave.
Yeah.
And I also love, there's also the scene where, Happy is, transferring all the Avengers items to the new Avengers base.
Oh, yeah.
And they
Thor's magic belt, Cap's new prototype shield.
For real. And, maybe we'll finally get to see that new prototype shield in Endgame.
And maybe we'll also see Thor's magic belt.
For real. Like,
bro,
we'll finally get that payoff.
Yeah.
But definitely, this film is great. Also, the ending where we finally see Pepper again, I love it. We hadn't seen Pepper since Iron Man 3, and when Homecoming came out in 2016, I believe, right? 2017. So it had been 4 years. 4 years since we had seen Pepper appear. There was rumors saying, oh, she had left MCU. Nah. When she shows up in Homecoming, and they do the whole, bait and switch. Like, first you think, oh, they're introducing Peter as an Avenger. And they show, what would be Iron Spider suit.
Tony originally was going to, have the whole press conference to introduce Spider-Man as an Avenger and all that stuff. But then he plays it off like, oh, it was just a test. I didn't really want you to. And then he looks at Happy. He's like, oh, Plan B. And then Happy pulls out the ring.
Love it,
bro. And this movie had so many funny parts in it too. Like at the beginning when he's in the suit and the guys are sitting there filming it. And they're like, yo, Spider-Man, do a flip. And
also,
then and then when they catch Ned at the end of the movie, in the computer lab, and they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, watching porn."
Yeah. Also, another thing, the interrogation scene in the parking lot.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, he has the deep voice, and
with Donald Glover, bro.
Yep, you have to get better at this part of the job. Oh man. And then he finally tells Peter the info, and he's like, can you let me out of this web? He's like, no, you're a criminal, you're a bad guy, it'll take a couple hours. He's like, you deserve this. He's like, no, come back and fix this. He's like, he just walks away. I love it.
Bro, I love it too because they hint at Miles Morales too.
Yes.
They're like, yes. he's like, I got a nephew that lives here. bro.
Maybe one day, maybe in
dude, honestly,
maybe
bro.
who knows? Maybe Far From Home, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
No, yeah. But no, I feel like the MCU could look and see how Into the Spider-Verse did, which again, I love that movie.
Oh,
that is
great movie.
One of my favorite Spider-Man movies now.
Great movie.
But bro, everybody was like, "Oh, Miles Morales can't headline a movie." Bro, yes he can.
Yes, he can.
Yeah.
Just imagine a Peter Parker, Miles Morales team up in the MCU.
Dog, I just want a live action Into the Spider-Verse movie. Get Tobey Maguire back on
that'd be freaking incredible. Yo,
bro, you know how much money it would cost to make that movie though? Holy shit.
Yo. The amount of legal stuff that would take to get that done.
Exactly. So now we're getting into Spider-Man Homecoming. Good movie. I would say this is a top tier MCU movie.
Great
This
movie.
is a top tier MCU movie. So now we're getting into what I consider the best MCU movie. My number one, Thor Ragnarok. This movie is amazing. From the sound score to having Hulk as a side character to introducing Hela, and then having Loki and Thor work together, Thor's hammer gets destroyed, all this shit, bro. This movie is amazing.
Thor Ragnarok, definitely, it's easily top tier Marvel film. It's not the best film in my opinion, just because
really?
It's not the best Marvel film. All right, it's top 5, definitely. I love it. They take everything that was bad about the first 2 Thor movie and flip it on its head. The director. Imagine if they had. I'm forgetting the director's name.
Taika.
Yeah, they had Taika direct the first. Imagine if they had Taika from the jump. Thor Ragnarok. The way that movie was, it makes me, and we don't know what happens with Thor in Endgame, but it makes me want them to do a Thor 4 in Phase 4.
There are rumors of that.
There are rumors, yes.
There's rumors going around right now.
Also,
but bro, this movie has Jeff Goldblum in it, bro. How can you not say it's the best?
It's top tier. I'll give you that. It's not number 1 in my opinion, but it's great from top to bottom. Love it. Chris Hemsworth. This was the Chris Hemsworth we should have always got. You don't realize how funny and how much of a comedic genius Chris Hemsworth is until you see this movie. Also,
go ahead.
I love Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie.
Oh, Tessa Thompson,
one of my favorite MCU characters. I love her. We know she's gonna be in Endgame, but I'm hoping she becomes a big name in Phase 4 and she sticks around. No matter if they make her part of the Avengers or make her the female Thor. I love her. She's so great in this movie. Amazing.
This movie, just from the get-go, has so many awesome payoffs. The first one is we get so Thor, they meet Hela. We see Odin die.
Yeah.
And already at the beginning, it's funny because Loki, he's we see Matt Damon in this movie too, playing Loki, and then the other Hemsworth brother playing Thor.
Yes.
In a play, and we get this whole thing, and then they go to Earth, and Loki's I left him right here, and it's a demolished old folks home.
Yeah.
Bro, and then Thor dies, or not, Thor doesn't die. Odin dies, and then that frees Hela. Hela breaks Mjolnir.
Yep.
That just tells you, you're holy shit. So she breaks Mjolnir, and then they get sent off and knocked out when they're trying to go through the Bifrost, and and then they get sent to Jeff Goldblum's planet. It's escaping me right now, but and he's sitting there, and Loki was already there, but then Jeff Goldblum's sitting there, and then he's I am a god, and then he's got the electricity going. He's ooh, sparkles. It's just This movie is so funny. And then whenever we find out that Hulk is the champion of the planet, major Planet Hulk vibes. Just like
Facts.
I want to know,
Facts,
bro. Like when I said at the end of Age of Ultron, I was like, I want a Planet Hulk movie now. And technically, we kind of got it. But then when Thor gets sent into the ring, bro, and then like the Hulk comes out, he's like, yes. And he's like,
man. He's a
I
friend
know
from
him
work.
from work. He's a friend from work.
Yep.
Bro, dude, it's hilarious. And then the soundtrack for this movie, dude, with
also
Led Zeppelin, all that. Oh my god, bro. And then Korg in this movie, bro.
Yes, I was just about to mention like Korg,
Dude.
great addition. You know, also the final battle with the music. You know, like you.
Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, bro. Amazing. Yeah. Literally, I feel like it was a missed opportunity in Infinity War when Thor came down to play Immigrant Song. Like, bro. Bro, you can actually go on YouTube and look that up. You can look that up.
Music in there?
Yeah, people edited it to it, bro.
Oh,
it's
definitely
awesome.
Gonna do that. Yep.
Yeah, like no, to me, I have watched this movie almost as many times as I've seen Iron Man 1. And this movie, to me...
Yeah, it was on Netflix for a really long time, too.
Yeah, it's still on Netflix. You can still go watch this. And Infinity War. Bro, this movie, like, to me, this is the one I most enjoy watching. Like, I can turn this movie on, like, right now and watch it again and still be just as, like, impressed and, like, entertained by it as I was the first time. That's how much I like this movie.
Also, one more thing. There's so many good things to say about this movie. One thing we didn't even mention, the Doctor Strange cameo. They did Doctor Strange. This was his second appearance in the MCU, and I love what they did here. How Loki. Loki's been falling. I've been falling for 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
And then you have Thor. He puts like the hammer in like I believe what was an umbrella. I believe what it was.
Yeah.
And it's just breaking everything in Doctor Strange's house. When Doctor Strange and Thor are talking, Thor is drinking the beer, and it just automatically fills back up. There's so many good moments. It's a fun comedic adventure, and with the final battle, even though Asgard's on the line, Asgard's about to be destroyed, Ragnarok and everything, it's still fun and enjoyable. And definitely, hopefully, and if they do a Thor 4, they got to go that same direction.
I really think they need to bring Taika back if they're going to make a Thor 4. And to end this off, one of my favorite things in the movie is whenever, Surtur is getting ready to destroy, Asgard, and Hulk launches towards him, and Thor goes, "For once in your life, can you not smash? But big scary monster."
Big scary monster.
Bro, I love that. But no, Thor, this is
Thor like fire, Hulk like big raging fire.
This is
from top to bottom. This movie is great. Great.
Yeah,
definitely
this is a
top tier, top 5.
Yeah, definitely top tier. My personal favorite. Yeah, my personal number 1.
In my top 5 for sure. Great.
Yeah. So next we have Black Panther, which is all around. Now
this is number 2 on my list.
Really?
I love this movie. I think
this movie visually is stunning. I love the way this movie looks.
The way they made Wakanda come to life.
Yeah, bro. This is honestly something really awesome, and it did something for the culture and everything, bro. This movie is so good. And then also in this movie, again, one of the best villains in the MCU, Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan. Oh my gosh!
I don't know what it is with Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan.
I've been watching Michael B. Jordan since I was a kid. I watched him grow up as an actor. I loved him in Creed 1 and Creed 2. And when he came to the MCU, I played Black Panther. Other than in my opinion, Thanos, he was the best villain in the MCU. Number 2, in my opinion, is Killmonger, hands down. You know.
Yeah, Killmonger is he's another one of those like villains that you sympathize with, almost like the Vulture from.
And he's different from the Killmonger you see in the comics.
Exactly, and they make this. That I like to like, as my girlfriend likes to put it, this is the reverse Lion King. Like this movie though.
Oh yes, I've never seen it like that.
Yeah,
like the
it's
reverse Lion King. Yes,
bro,
I like that.
But this movie is so good, bro. It's like, and the music is amazing too. That's the reason why it was nominated for so many awards, bro. This movie, from top to bottom, I think is really good. I think there are some things in it that are like, okay, but it's definitely up there with the top tier Marvel movies.
For real, the supporting cast is for Kendrick Lamar with the soundtrack absolutely destroyed it. It was great, killed it. You know, the supporting cast, they had like Denai from The Walking Dead. You know, they had they continued Claw. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ulysses
from Age
Claw.
of Ultron. Yep, they continued that and they wrapped that up. You know, Agent Ross was great. You know, Shuri, definitely one of the MVPs of this movie, in my opinion. Like breakthrough star, loved what she did.
Yeah.
What are those sneakers? What are those thing? And then the invention of the sneakers. You know, and then delete that footage. After I saw that movie, man, I spent weeks trying to work on my Wakandian accent. You know, I love this movie top to bottom. One of my only criticisms for this movie, and there's a couple. Oh man, one of my only criticisms is I wish we saw Black Panther in the suit a little bit more, because he's not in the suit that much. He's in it at the beginning. He's in it when they go after Claw. He's in it at the end, really. And
this movie really just kind of it's more about the characters instead of just Black Panther being Black Panther.
Yes, and oh my gosh,
and I don't think that's a bad thing, honestly.
And M'Baku, I forgot to mention him. One of my favorite, definitely one of my favorite speeches, top 3 speeches in MCU, when he fights Chita at the beginning of this movie. I'm not gonna say the speech verbatim but I have the speech down to a T. I love it. Love everything about this movie. Also, like, near the end of the final battle, when they have like the music playing, he rises up and he's walking towards Killmonger and the rest of the army. One of the only things that pissed me off is I wish Killmonger didn't die. When he says, I know I'm being a real fanboy when it comes to this movie. Yeah. I just love it so much. But when Killmonger says, "Bury me in the oceans with the rest of my brothers," because we knew, I forget what it says, but I really hope some way, somehow, and I don't know if this is a result of Endgame or anything, when we're gonna get the Black Panther sequel in the next 2-3 years. Oh yeah! Please bring Killmonger back. You do it, even if it's not. He's probably not gonna be the main villain again, but please bring him back. Michael B. Jordan, do whatever it takes. All right.
Honestly, I could see them bringing back. You know how whenever he goes into that state where he can see the spirits of previous Black Panthers.
Ooh,
what if at the end he kind of like gets saved after that, and then they somehow bring him back in that point? I think that'd be a really good way to bring him back if they didn't exactly want to bring him back like to life. So overall, Black Panther, really good movie.
Yeah.
Not there's a couple things in it that make it not the best, but it's really good.
Yeah, for me it's number 2.
Yeah, so going right out of Black Panther, we got Avengers Infinity War. Bro.
This is my number 1.
This is your what?
This is my number 1.
Number 1? Okay. Number 1. So right off the bat, we start off Star Wars style ship invasion, bro. Like the ship boarding another ship. The way this movie
started, like the thing about it is the way when the Marvel credits or when the Marvel intro comes in. They're doing the Marvel intro, but they don't have the whole theme song. It's just like you hear like
it's the distress call for help. Bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then all you see is basically Loki and Thanos' henchman, and the way they introduce Thanos, he gives that speech that he gives in the trailer. Dread it, run from it, destiny still arrives.
Bro.
And he's just like dragging Thor on the ground. Mm-hmm. But part of me wishes they just showed, because at the Thor Ragnarok post-credit scene, we see, Thor and Loki, they approach Thanos' ship approaches them for the first time. Part of me just wishes we saw, what led up to that.
Yeah, I think it's still kind of, like, inferred that Tessa Thompson's character, Valkyrie, left.
Yeah.
With some of the Asgardians.
They escaped, yeah.
Yeah, so then in the movie, this is going to be verbatim, just me talking about what happens. So in the movie, it starts off like that. Loki dies, bro. Like,
ooh, you'll never be a god.
Loki dies. Hulk gets punked out, sent to Earth by Heimdall. Heimdall dies.
Yeah. Ooh.
Thor is sitting there watching all of this. Bro, like, it's crazy. And then we get back on Earth, and then it's like we meet up with Tony Stark and all them after we see Doctor Strange and Wong and Hulk crash through the building, which is taken straight out of the comics, except it's usually the Silver Surfer instead of Hulk. But like, we see it and he's like, Thanos is coming, and then so we get the meetup, all this stuff, and then Thanos' people come to Earth, and then we see they go out, and then they're like the what's his name, the magician, not Doctor Strange, but the I'm forgetting. Thanos, one of the Black Order people. I don't call them the children of Thanos, because in the comics,
you could just call him Squidward. Call him Squidward.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say that he gets called Squidward, and then all this stuff. But one of my favorite lines, even from that scene, is whenever he's like, Banner, do your thing, and then he's like, okay. He's like, but not like I ever get a choice, right? And he's like, that's right. So then he goes to turn into the Hulk, and he can't do it. He's like, dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards. Oh. Bro. Totally. He's like, are you having a thing right now? He's like, yeah. He's like, you know what? Just go over there. But no, bro. Like, this movie has so many funny parts to it. We get thrown all over the place in this movie, too. From Earth to the Guardians of the Galaxy, then off Earth, then we meet up with Captain America again. Bro, this movie has so much stuff in it. We can't even do it justice just talking about it. Like, it's such a good movie.
So much happens in this movie, and it's crazy. It really is. There's
a reason why it's almost 3 hours long, bro.
Like, for real. Like, and think about it, Endgame's even longer. And I'm not ready. But still, back to Infinity War.
My body is ready, bro.
We waited, for Thanos for so long, since the first Avengers. And they teased him for so many years. And he lives up to hype. Infinity War is Thanos' movie. Alright? It's not... Yeah. It's basically Thanos' movie with the Avengers trying to stop him. And basically what we've heard, Endgame is more like the other way around, where it's the Avengers trying to fix everything, and then Thanos trying to stop them. And so many great character moments. Anything about this was they advertised it as this bringing all of the characters together. Every character got a moment. You can go down the line, and you can talk about every single hero in this movie got their moment. From Iron Man to Cap, to Thor, to etc., etc. And if you had to pick one character from this movie, who this movie, is the MVP of this movie, it's Thor. Thor is the MVP of Infinity War. You know, the scene where he comes into Wakanda with the Stormbreaker. But yes, every character gets a moment in this film.
Like I said, which should have Immigrant Song playing as he comes in, but whatever.
But
whatever. But but really the big moment that we have to talk about in this movie is the Battle of Wakanda. That happens, and which again is awesome. He's like Black Panther's like, get this man a shield, and like all that stuff. Some awesome lines in this movie. But we have to get to the end where Thanos is finally fighting the Avengers, and an axe comes out of nowhere. Stormbreaker, Thor's axe that he gets in the movie, and hits Thanos in the chest. Now this is the most alpha line in the whole movie. Is whenever Thanos goes, "You should have aimed for the head," and then then the snap happens, bro. Yep. Like that has to be one of, like, I think when people look back at the MCU, that's going to be one of the moments that everybody remembers.
Yeah, for real, man. Oh, you should have gone for the head. And when I saw it, when you see it in theaters, you know, the quietness in the theater, you know,
everybody was so upset, bro. Like, my girlfriend was crying in the theater when that happened.
And then the snap happened. You know, the iconic snap from the comics. We were like, the whole time, you know, you're like, is he going to do it? You know, are we going to see it? What's going to happen? How is this movie going to end? You know, because, you know, even though, you know, you want to focus on Infinity War, you know that there's going to be another movie. Avengers 4 is going to happen next year.
Yeah.
So, if they defeat Thanos, what's going to happen? You know, and, you know, then we see the snap, and we have no idea. It's just quietness. And all you see is then Bucky starts fading. Then Black Panther starts fading. And then the Guardians start fading. And Falcon and Scarlet and et cetera. Like, oh my gosh. And then Spider-Man.
And then okay. See, that's the thing that got most people, right? Is everybody is disappearing. And you have to assume that Spider-Man can feel it about to come with his spider sense.
Yes.
So he knows. And he's like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Bro, that's what almost got me, because again, like I said, Spider-Man is like my favorite Marvel superhero.
Oh, yeah.
Like, bro, that almost got me. This movie ends on such a somber note, and it's like, damn. And then the post-credit scene, we see Nick Fury go, and then bro, it's so good. This movie's so good. That's why it's my number 2. So you have it at number 1. I have it at number 2.
There's not enough great things you could say about Infinity War.
Yeah.
Like, one of my thing I will never forget is when Iron Man and Thanos are fighting. You know, Iron Man goes like, you know me? I do. You're not the only one cursed with Nas. I start losing my mind. And then when Thanos stabs Tony, if you guys couldn't tell, I'm a huge Iron Man fan. I yelled in the theater. I yelled, no! I dead ass was thinking about walking out at Tony. And I wasn't gonna actually walk out, but I didn't know what I was gonna do myself. I saw Tony die right there, you know. And it's just emotion, and it's also at that moment when you realize how invested you are with these characters and in the MCU in general. You know, everything coming together in Infinity War, and the ending to the movie. You know. First, you see Captain America just sitting there looking over Vision's dead body, you know, and then it pans over to Thanos, who's sitting in the garden, you know, and then the music that sad violin is playing, you know, and it does, you know, the way the credits start rolling, and also the one thing that got me this was when you hear the Avengers theme song. But then it's playing very low on the piano, and then you see this. It says Infinity War, and then it just turns to dust. That's when it got me.
Yeah,
that's when I was like, "Oh my gosh, that does happen." When you realize there was no turning back. It's crazy.
Now, it's getting close to midnight here, so we have 2 more movies that we have to get through. So we're gonna have to go rapid fire on here. But again, after an Avengers movie, another Ant-Man movie comes out. I don't know what the deal is, but the thing with this movie is, this movie is really, really weird. Only because I like this movie. Okay, it's not a bad movie. again, it's not a bad movie, but like it's the movie that comes after Infinity War. That's what really hurts this movie, because it has like the job of being as good as Infinity War, and that's really hard.
I disagree with you there, just because here's the thing: what after Infinity War and how how traumatizing that was. How do you follow that up? Really, you can't go into they couldn't go straight into building towards Endgame because you needed time to reflect and then look back at what Infinity War was. I feel like if they had done another big scale movie, right after that, it would have hurt itself because
I'm not saying it had to be big scale. What I'm saying is it had like a really hard like time following up Infinity War. Like,
yeah, how do you? Oh, okay, I can see what you mean. Yeah,
yeah.
Like I enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp. I enjoyed it.
No, it's a really good movie.
Like, I personally like Ant-Man and the Wasp more than I like the first Ant-Man. I love Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp. I love how they introduce. Like, see, we meet her in the first Ant-Man, but we see her in the suit for the first time. I love her as the Wasp. It's a very simple story. It's not, the stakes aren't that big. It's more just a fun movie, and I see why they did it, because they wanted to give a fun tone. To calm down. It's not till the very, very, very end of the movie that we finally get that reference to Infinity War.
It's the post credit.
Yes.
Where he's like guys, and you see the piles of dust.
Yes. That's when it finally hits you. Like, you just had so much fun, but hey, Infinity War just happened.
What I find really weird about this movie is it's going on literally while Infinity War is happening. How do they have no clue what is happening?
It's crazy.
That's the thing I don't get. But
they were so busy.
This movie does a really good job of keeping it upbeat. It's got funny lines in it. Michael Pena in it, always fucking hilarious. Killing it. Yeah, like this movie is really funny, and the ending really just again ties it into the Infinity War storyline. And then now we see Ant-Man in the second I wanted to call it Infinity War Part 2 Endgame. Definitely a good movie. I would say it's a decent movie, and especially coming right after Infinity War, it could have been a whole lot worse. So
yeah, for real.
So we're actually now going into our final movie, Captain Marvel, which actually just recently came out. What? Two months ago?
Yeah, about 2 months.
Yeah, like 2 months ago. Now, see, this movie to me feels like a Phase 1 movie.
Yes.
Honestly. It feels very by the numbers. Again.
Yes. Well, for the most part, it feels by the numbers, They did do that, that little bait where you thought the big, the main villain was the Skrulls. That's what you think?
Well, yeah, because you just assume that because in the comic books, the Super Skrulls are
exactly
the big villain.
But other than that, really, it is a main story. It is a simple story.
Yeah.
I saw this movie twice. The first time I enjoyed it. The second time I didn't enjoy it as much, just because I feel like with what they did with Carol Danvers. I feel like they she's a little bit bland with her personality.
Well, it's not even just that. Okay, so yes, Carol Danvers' character is bland in this movie, but Brie Larson's delivery of it, like, nothing against her. She's been in good roles before, but here, just her delivery in this movie is very, like, uncharismatic.
Yes.
And it kind of, like, brings down the film. The thing that saves this movie is Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
And the cat, for me.
Yes, Samuel L. Jackson killed it in this movie. This is arguably his best performance in the MCU.
Yeah, and I like how they kind of retcon the thing in the Winter Soldier where he's like, "Last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye."
I lost an eye. Yep.
But here we see that he loses it because of the cat.
No, it's funny. It is funny.
Yeah, but yeah, bro, this movie feels really by the numbers, but it's definitely it's not bad. Here's the thing: we've talked about bad movies. we talked about The Incredible Hulk. We talked about Thor: The Dark World. This movie is way better than Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, this... But, again, it just feels like it would be a Phase 1 movie. And,
yeah, definitely.
You know, it's not the best, but it's not bad. But people raving about it, thinking that it's the best movie ever, like you said, you thought it was good. You went and watched it the second time. You didn't really enjoy it as much because, like, the hype for it was kind of over, so you went and watched it the second time.
Yeah.
And then, like, you kind of looked at it in a, like, broader perspective. Every movie I go into, I try to look at it that way, which I'll probably do with Endgame tomorrow, too. Like, I'll go in there probably hyped, but I'm going to analyze the movie. Like, I'm not going to be blinded by just MCU goggles. Like, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to look at it to see if it's, like, an actual good movie.
Yeah.
And when I went and watched Captain Marvel, I was like, oh, cool, yeah, 90s reference. Ooh, this feels like Top Gun. Ooh, yeah, this is kind of cool, whatever. But, like, I was like, it didn't really hook me. And then by the end of the movie, I kind of just, like, the end of the movie was good, and then it kind of hooked me by then. But then really, I was really just there just to see the post-credit scene. Because this was the last movie before Endgame.
Post-credit scene's incredible. I love the post-credit scene.
And then the cat.
Also, we can't forget, you know, since this is the Dragon Ball Network, Carol Danvers goes Super Saiyan.
Oh, yeah, she does. She goes Super Saiyan, like, Mega Super Saiyan grade 3.
Facts.
She goes crazy.
I love that part. Also, the part where she, like, she goes right in front of Ronin and she, like, classes.
Bro, he's like, he's like, we gotta get out of
here. His eyes, man. Oh, he was terrified.
He's like,
I'm surprised. No, I'm surprised, like, you know, because we see Ronin, he meets his downfall in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't have Captain Marvel defeat Ronin. Like, maybe they'll talk on that in, you know, Captain Marvel 2. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Because he is a Kree, so.
Yeah, that is true. Yep.
But, yeah, so that's the MCU. We're not going to talk about Endgame yet. I wanted to talk about our theories, but we're actually getting kind of late here.
Yeah.
So
we've been at it for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we've been going on for a while. So we're gonna see Endgame, and I believe I'm gonna do a review on my personal channel. Yeah. And then I also believe that I'm going to do a review with Fitz after we see the movie. And we're gonna talk about it, and probably mark out. We're going to be really marking out. And then next week on the podcast, not quite sure what we'll be talking about. We did talk about the whole MCU. Maybe next week we'll talk about the DCEU. I don't know. Maybe you guys can let us know. Yeah, I know. Let us know down in the comments, because that'll be a really heated episode. So, yeah, I want to thank you again, Fitz, for joining me on here. This is probably the longest episode we've ever done. And I want to thank everybody else for joining in on this, listening to us talk about the MCU, some of our hot takes on things, mostly just identifying the trash too that's in here. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode. And again, we are on every week, Friday nights at 6 p.m. That's not going to change. And yeah, make sure to look out for us on the Dragon Ball Network. And from everybody here at the Dragon Ball Network, we thank you, and we will see you next week.
Peace.